Hi Paige, it's Alyssa. Thank you so much for your patience and waiting for this video. First off, I want to say that your questions were whoppers. I mean, those are some deep questions. So I'm excited to do them because I enjoy them. And normally I do cold readings, which means the first time I look at your chart is like the first time I talk to you. Because you had some questions, I wanted to look at it before for a little while. Um, Normally, I don't do that because I forget things. Like the reason I do cold readings is because if I'm by myself looking at your chart, I'm gonna forget everything that I didn't. I'll be like, I already told you that, and I didn't because I'm a Pisces ascendant, and that's what we do. We're kind of stupid in that way. We're so smart in other ways. That's what my mom tells me. Okay, so uh, first off, what I see, and what I'm going to go into, that probably makes more sense, is uh, your South Node, your Saturn, your Jupiter, and how they relate, because those are kind of like your planets that say success. Jupiter is like what should be able to beam you up into success, shows you even in, say, past life, like what was not stunted in this life or what was. And then Saturn is a lot of your karmic issues. You have the 8th house, the 12th house, which in the 4th house, which are karmic houses. They're the water houses. And then we have your South Node and North Node. So all together, I can kind of see some things that are going on. I just had to make sure of something. Okay, the first one I see is that your South Node, which does represent all of the things that you've accumulated through your past life, um, that you're aware of basically in this life, and your North Node is what you're trying to achieve. So your South Node is past life, your North Node is future life, is destiny basically. um, you can look a lot at your South Node, and you can also see it where it comes into play in this life, because whatever you've accomplished in past lives is a lot of what you're born into, because you just already know it. Your South Node is unaspected, which I'm going to go stamp that with forever alone. You were alone. I don't know if you walked the earth in isolation in a past life, and if this life you were born just feeling alone inside, like you've just had centuries of aloneness. But that means that in this life, you get more of a break and you don't have any weird squares or oppositions. You just have a trine to Venus. And on top of that South Node being forever alone, it's in Aries, which is already independent. So it's like forever, forever alone. And in this life, you're supposed to go into Libra, which is togetherness. Now your North Node is trine Venus. All love, marriage, companionship, togetherness. Um, that should be so easy for someone, right? But it's not for you. But it's kind of like the universe is saying, hey, I needed your soul to wander a lot by itself, really know who you were. And now you get a break from that. Yay! But it's like, no, that's hard. You can't make me do this for centuries and then tell me now I get a break. That's not even fair, because you what? Like you have a lifespan. And so it makes relationships difficult for you. But the older you grow, the more you get into it, the more you become so comfortable. And there's also this part of you that really, really wants a relationship, that so badly wants one. You might, well, I know you're married. I don't know anything about your marriage. If you got married too soon, if you were always pining for relationships, I don't know those kind of things, because a lot of times when something's our destiny, we think about it a lot. We want it so bad. And then we get it and we're like, oh, God, let's just try this again later. Because it's just not what we're good at. And sometimes we self-sabotage because of that. So you might self-sabotage relationships because you're like, well, I'm better off alone anyway. So that's one thing that I thought was really strong in your chart. Another one is that your North Node is in the 12th house. So there's future karma there. Going into karma, the 6th house is where it was like an everyday thing for you. And now this 12th house, it's spiritually aware. So it says that there's a part of you that will have to break out of this world even and understand the spirituality of marriage. Kind of popped out. I think that's right. That's what came out of my mouth. So it must be right. Sometimes this stuff just comes out of my mouth. It's a Pisces ascendant thing. So there's this idea that what marriage represents is much greater than what humans understand it as. That understanding in earthly marriage is like, and I'm not talking Jesus stuff here, that's where I first learned it, but it's more than that. It's understanding the idea of ourselves and the feminine masculine energy. Feminine is always the dark. I know, right? But it makes sense. Male is the light. A lot of times we as humans want to only be in the light. Or sometimes people get really depressed and they're only in the dark. Most women end up with depression and most men end up with narcissism because they automatically go off on their own. And the idea is marrying the two, the masculine and feminine side of you, the not being afraid of either side. And so I think that's part of your destiny too, is to be able to understand your light and dark side and teach other people how to do that. And maybe you got to walk in the light a lot. I mean, Aries is masculine, and that's where you were in the South Node. So let's look at your other planets. So you have Saturn retrograde. Saturn retrograde normally tells me that you died young in another life. You didn't complete your destiny. So there might have been you wandering by yourself, yada yada. You had to get your destiny with, marriage and love and all that, and you tried it, or you never really got able to try it completely and never fully went through your head and you died. So in this time you had to come back around and learn the same lesson 1.5 million times over and over and over again. And here your lesson is a little bit different than your North Node, but they all correlate. It's in Leo. It's 28 degrees. That's actually really interesting because my daughter has a 28-degree Saturn retrograde in Scorpio. So they're square perfectly. Sometimes I just see that and I'm like, that's really interesting. Okay, so the degree is really important. And it always is. It's the latest degree without being a karmic degree, but Saturn's already karmic. It just means that it's not, it's at its full explosive potential. Once it gets to 29 degrees, it wanes off a little bit. And so you really have to complete a bunch of things in this life. And you're going to go through the same shit, and it looks like it's going to be ego shit. People hurting you based on the Leo Saturn. Leo is your sun, and it's your ego. And so when you have Saturn there, just people not allowing you to be what you want to be, and you having to really push through that. And since it's Leo and your Saturn's there, and your South Node's in Aries, these are masculine fire signs, I'm going to go with the fact that you probably want to stay towards the light. I don't know you, but you want to be more in touch with the masculine side. You want everything to be beautiful and light. And that darkness that's inside of you, you don't want it. And so darkness keeps coming at you until you accept it. And so you can find balance. As an Aquarius, and being born on Justin Timberlake's birthday, and my ex-boyfriend's, you're born on 11. 11 is a karmic number. Aquarius is the 11. So January 31st is the most potent Aquarius birthday. Did you know that? It is. Besides, yeah, no, that's pretty good. January 11th. No, January 31st, sorry. Because it's the 11th, whatever. So Aquarius is 11. You were born at the 11th degree. This 1-1 is the double masculine trying to make for the feminine. It is using the gifts of being able to be strong, mighty, and on your own, and merging them with the world through a form of marriage. I like that. You're going to have to deal with that a lot right now. Then Let me see. I lost where I was. Okay. That actually, none of that stuff is relating to your Saturn. Your Sun doesn't relate to your North Node or your South Node. They're all separate, but they all work together. I mean, and I say relating, they're not connected. That wasn't anything special. Don't worry about it. I just said because I'm thinking. Your Jupiter is also retrograde. Now, Jupiter retrograde means you feel really unlucky. Retrograde means any planet turned inwards. So your Saturn's also retrograde, and obviously I said that means you died young, but it also means in this life, not only repeating the same things over and over again, it turns it inwards, meaning you force a lot of your issues on yourself. A lot of maybe negative self-talk that you really want to run away from. Jupiter going retrograde means you're a natural observer. You love to observe people, but in that way you always thought everybody was better than you. And that Saturn and Leo didn't really help you out. And so when you have that people are able to just live their lives and you can't, like, what the fuck's that about? And it's because it's Jupiter retrograde. You assume people can live their lives more than you can, but they can't. That's just what you assume because you see them and you don't know how to see yourself actually living life, like adulting, being strong and brave. All these things that I know that you are based on these really powerful fire masculine planets. And then your Jupiter is in Gemini, which accentuates the communication factor in you, accentuates your ability to basically tell things like it is and to, be somebody who is supposed to do a bunch of things. And, oh my gosh, this is the last thing I'm going to leave you with as I'm discussing all of this. You have Jupiter in the 9th house. It's a great place for Jupiter, but it's also a place that feels like you're always on the verge of success and you're never getting there because 7th, 8th, 9th, they move up to the 10th, and the 10th is your pinnacle of your public success, right? So it's in the 9th. It's just stuck there. It's like waiting. It wants to go to the 10th house so bad, but it's not there. It's not there. It's not there. And that's because you will get success, but not through learning, trying. It doesn't just happen. It's something that you're always going to be in competition with yourself, trying to be the best version of yourself. And I say success, it could be public career, but it could just be internal success. But you will get it. You have Mars in the 10th too, Mars retrograde. All these retrograde planets that you have right here at the top too, this Jupiter, Mars, Saturn in the 9th, 10th, 11th house of your public part of your life. The retrograde, that means you're a late bloomer. Your life doesn't start when everybody else does. You weren't supposed to be famous at 20. Maybe you're not supposed to be famous at 40, but you're supposed to be successful around that time. That's when you grow. That's when you get what you need. So I over talked, but it's okay because I'm so late. I feel like I owe you time when I'm late. If you've been stuck the last 4 to 5 years, it's because your Saturn's in Leo and Saturn was just in Scorpio. You just had a huge Saturn square. If there's a fear inside of you, that fear would have overtaken you. It also, when you have a Leo Saturn and you go through your Saturn square, it's definite ego crushing. And it makes you want to write off everybody in the world that hurts you. And in reality, you can't do that. Like I said, there's a lot of darkness and lightness, dark and light, that you have to combine in this life. And life isn't going to stop hitting you until you accept it and take it in, until you accept the light and take it in. Because again, I'm not 100% on this light, dark thing in you, the balance, but I know that that's what is so important to you in this life. Your Mars in the 10th is a beautiful place because it really does mean you want to achieve and you will achieve. You just have to believe in yourself. Mars in Cancer is debilitated because Cancer itself doesn't like Mars, but Mars really likes the 10th house. That's what happens when you have a Libra ascendant. Everything gets all in there, but you can work it together. You're a big contradiction because you are able to do more than other people are. Aries ascendants can do whatever they want because their chart's all like perfect, but um, they can't do a lot at one time, right? They can do one thing. They can do like, I'm going to do this, and they go do it. Libra ascendants can do a bunch. Imagine like the Libra ascendant is the ultimate multitasker. You have all these abilities inside of you. You just have to believe in yourself. You have to balance out your Mercury-Mars opposition that says your mind and your Mars, your mind and your passion, they can't communicate that well, and you don't feel like you're special, but you are. You absolutely are. And I really do think you're going to be able to take something. I don't know if that means writing or what, but writing's always a go-to in my head when I'm like, well, you got to get your thoughts out. So you write. There's YouTube too. That's like what I do. And then there's other things. You can do a bunch of things to get the lessons that you've learned out. But I really do think that those are already in you. Like, what are your dreams? 11, you're born on the 11th sign, the 11th degree of the 11th sign. What are your dreams? Saturn is in your 11th house saying stunting your dreams, but it wants to help you with your dreams too, because the 11th and the 11th and the 11th, all of that is beautiful. Saturn should be able to work with you. The lessons you've learned in the last 3 years, 4 and 5 years, as Saturn was going into Scorpio, those things should be able to propel you forward if you allow them to. If you accept negative and positive as these parts of you that are so important. And I'll keep talking, but there's something, let's talk about this feminine masculine thing. Women are the bad part. Look at the story of Adam and Eve, right? Eve eats the apple and then she's a bitch and she tells Adam to eat it, and then they get like, oh, whatever, now everybody knows about evil. Yada, yada, yada. Same as like Pandora's box. Pandora is a woman, first woman, she opens up the box and now everybody knows about evil. Women were supposed to be the first to have free will. And it looks like darkness when you read it in this cartoony way of Lucifer telling Eve, go eat this apple. But in reality, she exercised free will. Adam had yet to do that. Woman was the first person to exercise free will. We have the ability. Free will, if that's darkness, then we don't understand what darkness is. I don't think that we do as humans. We're like, ooh, evil darkness. But it's not what we think it is. And so women have more. Women wreck people because they're changing people, because it is a darkness, but it's your darkness. Men, that masculine energy is light, and it gets easily swayed by the dark energy. And that's why men are so afraid, or have been for centuries, of women. That's just whatever. Anyway, know yourself, know your bravery, and accept both. And that's your chart reading. Thank you. Bye, Paige.